the online teaching.
Right.
And the first lesson I taught with these students, they're around 15, 16 years.
Right.
I could tell they were just stoned out. They weren't really.
I can imagine.
You know, they're like, it was a struggle to get people to turn on the mics or to turn on the camera.
Yep.
And it just, there was a massive disconnect.
Yeah.
And so for the next lesson, I got involved. One of the sports coaches who is at the school, who I've been doing some work with, and we began each class with like 15 minutes of exercise and then stretching. And I framed it as mindful movement because I'm teaching mindfulness as well. And I said, like, just be aware of your body, be aware of any tension. You know, we did the exercises and then, you know, do the stretching and notice any tension points, try to bring your awareness to that. And it just through the you know, getting people's circulation going, waking them up. Yeah. And also something that was specific to that was doing something unexpected, because the students were not expecting me, you know,
and it engages their minds.
And so I did that, and then from then on, like, the rest of the lesson went that much better because they were engaged, they were waking up, they were like, you know, physical movement, physical exercise, it does change your state of consciousness. And so breathing, which I know there's a lot in Kundalini, it does. It can change your physical conscious, or rather your mental consciousness.
It does. And yes, the first part too, it does change your physical consciousness as well. When you are more aware of your posture, you're more aware of your breath, you adjust yourself. And I mean, people talk about the power of healing. I believe breath heals. I believe when you can get your breath deeper and further and reach certain areas, you will find that part, just like with your kids, they wake up, it's something different. It gives a different consciousness. That physical part of your body will get a different consciousness and suddenly wake up. So I believe in that as well. But I could resonate with what you were saying about the children, because it, you know, I teach yoga mostly in the city of Bangkok, and you know, we get people like, my classes tend to give 90 minutes for my classes. The first 20 minutes I actually spend, and you were at Dome Yoga, we did a 2-hour class.
We did, yeah.
I actually spend the first 20 minutes of my normal class in general just to understand everyone's headspace. Sometimes by giving a very long introduction, which might seem counter to the fact that you're trying to introduce somebody, but you do a 30-minute introduction. But it's a lot of questions back and forth. You would notice that I wasn't speaking for 20 minutes in Om Yoga. I was asking a lot of questions from you guys. That helps me know what kind of headspace everyone is in. Like, for example, I learned that you hadn't done yoga for a year. I'd learned from somebody else this was their first time in Kundalini. You know, and that lets me rechange whatever I may have prepared for the class. And in a city like Bangkok, when people are working so hard and, you know, their day-to-day activities is just really busy. And sometimes that moment of letting out that little bit of tension before we actually begin, it just makes everyone feel lighter. And so I do that as well, but I guess for adults, the problem is more what adults are holding on between their heads and their heart than it is to actually get the body movement. Some adults you have to get, at least sometimes I feel that when you get this out at the start, everyone does the asanas really, really amazing. If people have thoughts in their minds, they can't get the asanas right. They're just busy within their own thinking process.
So it's like clean the palate.
Yeah, you got to clean the palate. Yeah, that's right. It's important to do yoga every morning.
Clean the palate.
Clean the palate.
Yeah. And are you familiar at all with Wim Hof breathing?
I am somewhat familiar with it. Meaning that I know it is the opposite of the breath of fire, which means you focus on the inhale and you let the breath go out, and through that breath your body cells can take extreme changes in weather, whether it's heat or cold, you can actually get into an ice bath and feel at ease. I have not done it though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But it is something I'm open to try.
I've been doing some. Actually, I'm going to be speaking to a practitioner tomorrow.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I've been doing a little bit, and when we were at Healing Center, I also practiced it in the ice bath.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done the ice bath, but I didn't do that particular thing. I just keep quiet and take long, deep breaths and find that myself can immerse, although I feel very cold, but it's not. Breathing techniques matter, but the mindset also matters. If you believe it, you can do it. So getting into ice, it is very cold.
It certainly is.
It certainly is. But you can sit there and be at peace and let the body really replenish, man, because the cells, they just clean up everything. I love cold.
Yeah.
Extreme cold. It just refreshes every skin cell.
Yeah. I was talking to my girlfriend about this because for me, there's obviously the physical aspect of the being in the cold, but I liked, the thing that I like about is the psychological aspect of being in a situation that is physically uncomfortable, that's not going to kill you, but being willing to experience it, because I see that as almost like a metaphor for like facing a difficult emotion.
Yes.
Because it's not going to kill you, a difficult emotion.
Exactly.
But it's just going to feel uncomfortable, and your willingness to either be with it or to try and escape it or to be there, but when's this going to end? Is going to make the experience either, tolerable or intolerable.
Correct.
And I was talking to her about that. Is I see as important as any kind of physical benefit to the ice.
You said something there about something being tolerable, intolerable, or think about how I can get out of it. And it made me think of something related, but not exactly the same. These days you have a lot of people who talk about personal sovereignty. Have you heard of that statement?
Yeah.
What does it mean to you?
So I've heard of it. I'm not exactly sure what it means to you. For me, personal sovereignty is just autonomy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be like
autonomy.
Do
you always have autonomy?
No, not always. No.
Okay. So, I was thinking of some people who do propagate that personal sovereignty means you have full autonomy and you don't have to answer to anybody. I disagree. I think you are sovereign. I am sovereign. But, and I'm not saying that we follow the rules of society and all that stuff. No, but we have to interact. So a sovereign nation, because that is the best way to explain this analogy, is a sovereign nation is surrounded by other nations. It has to have political contacts. It's got to have personal contacts. It's got to be able to live in existence with these other sovereign nations around it. As a sovereign being, you have to exist with other sovereign beings around you. If you think I am sovereign but they are not, you've got the whole thing wrong. Every individual is sovereign, whether or not the other individual recognizes that in themselves or not. But if you believe you are sovereign, you have to understand that every being is sovereign. You have to respect them that way. Especially if you think they're wrong, but you've got to do something because now you're a political aspect. Let's take the double masking, for example. I don't know if it's effective or not. Actually, maybe that's a bad example. I think about COVID vaccinations. Do vaccinated people 3 weeks later need to wear masks in public? You have an argument by some people who say, yes, you must wear masks all the time, regardless. I personally don't think you need to. But if I was, say, in a country that was, or in a city that was going through high levels of COVID and they mandated everyone to wear a mask, even though I am sovereign, I am there, I have to go through the policies of the local government, well, then I would mask up and go, even though I think this is BS. Because it is in my sovereign, what is the word? interest, in my personal interest as a sovereign being, to not get into trouble with state authorities. So to do that, my personal sovereign being makes a compromise on my personal belief just to exist and move around. But that's me taking leadership of my own self and my own choice, knowing the situation, right? Now, if I'm unhappy with it, I should change place. And that is, again, me as a sovereign being making that decision. But to go out in defiance and being like, I ain't masking up. Yes, I could be right.
Yeah.
But I'm also wrong at the same time. I'm not respecting other beings as being sovereign. I might create fear in somebody else. Not my fault. Fear is being created by mass communication and mass media usually. But the act of me being out might create fear in somebody irrationally. So as a sovereign being, I respect their sovereignty. I don't want to bring harm to others. I just mask up for that moment. And if it is a big problem, I use my sovereign being to get myself out of it. That's the analogy. Yeah. So personal sovereignty comes from the practice of yoga, obviously. I kind of lost track a little bit from what we were discussing before that.
So we were talking about the connection between the physical body and state of mind, and and how I was given the example about the students, and
Correct.
which was follow on from your point about the preparation and the way that yoga was different to the mantras
so
the
personal sovereignty
Yeah.
is you being the master of your mind. Yes. And that comes from a state of awareness. And, it comes back to what you were saying that, about the kids, it's just getting them into the right headspace. And if you're somebody who believes in being sovereign, your right headspace would be to be aware of your surroundings, I suppose. And yoga breath, deep breath, does that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much. Yeah. It's weird that the idea that we would have to consciously learn breath, but it's like, I know from I don't know if you're familiar with the Alexander technique.
No,
it's a technique for posture, and I also hurt my back.
Okay.
From I think when I was about early 20s,
wow.
Tried many different physio, osteopaths, this therapy, that therapy, and in the end up learning Alexander technique, which was developed by an actor for voice, and it was about posture. And of course you have a natural posture when you're a child, but then you learn all these weird ways of hiding, or kind of trying to self-protect that can lead to some unnatural postures that then feel natural because you've been doing it for like forever, but they're not actually natural. And you're trying to get back to how it was, originally before you started to feel scared and you hid and you did that. And I think that the breathing is also along those lines.
Yeah. Well, we tend to constantly put other things as of more importance than breath, than breathing. But nothing beats deep breathing. Deep breathing can clear your mind in an instant. Deep breathing can make you go from feeling sick to start getting healed. Deep breathing is very powerful. If you don't want to do yoga or anything, that's fine. That's your own personal, decisions or choice. But even if you just lay in bed at the start of your day and just lay in bed and spend the first few breaths just to connect with your breath. Oh my God, you will find, rather than reacting, you get to take a little bit of leadership position into yourself and into your mind and into your body. It's true, we have absolutely no control over anything, but you still can be in charge of yourself. And I feel many times I'm not. I'll catch myself something and be like, wow, this time period, all I've been doing is reacting to this stimuli and that stimuli and this stimuli, and I lost my breath sometime in my day, and get back in. A couple of deep breaths and you're back in. I like doing it in the morning. I think deep breathing really brings us to the point of leadership space.
Yeah, I like what you're saying about taking leadership, because I think it can often be that we just caught up in patterns of thought, of triggers, of our own personal history, or sometimes not even maybe cultural history, things that have happened to us in a certain environment when we're younger, and we're just like living through these patterns and not even knowing it, and we feel like we're making the choices or the decisions, or sometimes we don't, but we don't ever stop to like connect to, oh, hang on a sec, like just let's breathe, let's just slow down a sec and maybe notice what I'm doing and have some consideration for myself. And I remembered what I first got into personal development through hypnotherapy or hypnosis, and when I realized like a lot of the things that I was doing and many other people were unconscious patterns, it just like blew my mind. And when I also realized that a lot of the things that I'd been taught or learned or were conditioned by was hypnosis by a different name. Yeah, whether that's your parents just telling you something, or your culture, or the news, it really blew my mind. And so I think having some willingness to be proactive and just take a step back and consider the direction your life or your day is going is powerful.
It's funny you say that about the parents, because after the soul body, the next filter we have is our parental filters. We're lying down on a crib or in a bedroom or whatever your situation is, and all these things are happening outside you, and your brain is not developed. Your central nervous system is still at an early stage of development, and you hear words and you hear things and you see patterns, and these things somehow make their way through your perceptive abilities and get implanted into your future thoughts and decisions. That's a filter now. This is somebody else's voice. By the time you get to your own voice, your cultural conditioning, you're British.
I am, yeah.
Yeah, you're very polite.
Thank you.
Yes.
I even said thank you.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, just unconscious there.
You let me into your home, a British person is not as direct as an American person. I know it's a stereotype, but we don't need to really build on showing this to be true. I think most people will accept this as truth, right? So you have a cultural condition already built in. On top of that, what religion did you grow up, or did you have no religion?
Well, my dad was Christian, but then he was working a lot, and my mum, she's like atheist. So, I did for a short period of time go to church, but then when dad was busy, my mum was not going to take me. She didn't. Fine. So I would say kind of
little to none. Yeah. But what about myths and legends? What stories did you enjoy? Nordic kings, Nordic Thor, and all that stuff. Did you enjoy any of that stuff growing up?
Well, the fairy tales, the Brothers Grimm. Those were like also the Arabian Nights. I remember. Like those were the stories that I was when I was very young.
Well, believe it or not, that's stories we take in. Because now it's, I'm going to say something that might be controversial for my own, thing. But these are all the stories that build into our our conditional layer. And so the belief in something maybe a little bit beyond our perceptive abilities. The Brothers Grimm, are they the ones who do the stories of magic, right?
So that would be like Little Red Riding Hood or Snow White or
right. So a wolf that
Cinderella.
Can talk, for example. Yeah. Okay. So
most of the Disney ones.
These are things that you would never imagine. Like, can you imagine a wolf talking? You know, not really.
Three Little Pigs talking.
Yeah, or Nordic Thor making the sound of lightning or something like that. So these myths and legends create another conditional layer because they're built into our cultural. They're built into this layer somehow permeates through the cultural, permeates through the family. It has nothing to do with your soul. And it is after this layer, after the layer of your soul body, your family conditioning, your cultural conditioning. The cultural conditioning also includes news media in the way that I like to explain it, because that's all the cultural conditioning you have. Depending on the news media you are feeding or getting fed with. Before, I think used to be just the TV was on, but now you have the internet and endless forms of media. And then you have the mythological layer, right? I'm just calling it under one big word, the mythological layer filter. The stories you may have heard when you were young. But it is these stories, in my point of view, or my belief, that these mythological layer actually creates the cultural and the familiar layer. It's one that kind of, you know, a Christian nation is different from an Islamic nation. A nation where majority people are Buddhists are different from, you know, a nation where the majority people are another religion. So this permeates through. Before coming up to the fifth filter, which is now, I love to use this word because it just has I have a lot of fun using the word sentience. Okay. Usually used for robots. Yeah. I'm using it for humans. Okay. Because after all of this, you're starting to have your own voice. And this voice is the first, I don't remember the first time I had my voice. Do you remember yours?
Do you mean like literal voice or do my like
the first time do you remember talking to yourself?
No. I remember when I was getting out, I could remember when I was in a cot. Yeah. And I remember that my parents used to think I couldn't get out the cot. And so when they went downstairs, I would get up and I was like, get up and I'd look across the road and one of my neighbours, like was another kid I was friends with. Yeah, I remember that. So that was, I must have been very young because I was having they don't know that I can do this and I can. So that was very young, like very, very young.
Look, I don't know when it starts, but I think it ramps up. I think I can say it ramps up during our preteens because that's the first time we start like actually deciding or choosing things for ourselves. I think because before that, you know, at 7, 8, 9. You might learn to tell a white lie here or there or something, but it isn't until a little bit older that you can start to really make stories and you can start to convince yourself of things that aren't necessarily true. I think we do that a lot. So I think that layer, the sentient layer, the interpersonal layer, interpersonal layer and the interpersonal layer is in one filter for me. Which is the fifth filter. Sorry, I was not at number 4 anymore. And that's really the who you are when you're looking out at the world. And when you hear something from someone, you go through these filters before you take in something. So between two people talking, if we leave the middle layer where there's no filter, and we call that the truth filter, just between two people talking, there's 13 layers of filters. 6, then this energy of neutral space, and then 6 more. So 13 layers between you saying something to something I hear, and you wonder why people have problems with each other. You know, I'm not saying people aren't empathic or anything. It's just we are very conditioned beings to our perceptive layers in our lives, and it is what makes us who we are. It's nothing bad. But we should be aware of it. Doesn't mean don't get angry. I get angry too. I get sad too. But after a while, you can step out and be like, all right, let me rethink this or redo this. Yeah,
something I learned fairly recently was like in relationships to try and look for the misunderstanding rather than the blame.
Yes.
And that
totally
can be very difficult.
Oh no, it's
when you get triggered, it's like that person's definitely screwed up. But I think that idea of looking with the misunderstanding rather than the fault in the other person can be very helpful.
Yeah, when you're with somebody for many, many years, you also realize that the other person and you have different faults. I mean, not that it should be the preceding thing, but you start to learn that when you see from somebody's point of view where they are coming from, including, their greatness and their faults.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult.
It is, yeah.
It is.
For when, especially with like the closer the relationship, the more challenging it is. And it's something that I think is really interesting about the perceptions that we've just been discussing is that the more upset or emotional we get, the more sure we are that we're correct in what we're thinking, but the more distorted that thinking becomes.
Yes.
But just because that's how the brain works. The more anger, the more emotional you get, the more like cortisol and adrenaline, all these chemicals which are literally physically distorting how you can think.
Yeah.
And yet the feeling of certainty is going up along with the amount of distortion.
Correct.
And it's very easy to see with see two people arguing in a pub. Yeah. And the more upset and angry, the more like sure they are that
the more hardened they become into their
it's staunch in their position.
Yeah.
And it's very simple to see that. But when it's yourself, it's a bit more challenging.
Of course.
But it's
that's
a fascinating
why we have friends
thing.
and family. They keep us in check.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing though. Like the feeling of I'm right is literally going up with the amount of distortion.
Oh, I wish I could remember where I read this, but I remember reading a quote once. You can be right or you can be happy.
Yeah. I've heard that one.
Yeah.
So how did you go from, you shared about how you had that experience yourself in the Kundalini class.
Yes.
How did you go from then to actually becoming a teacher and founding your own school?
So I went to something called the Kundalini Yoga Asia Festival. It happened to be held in Thailand for many years actually, but it was held here in 2009 that I went, 2010 I went, and I think I went once or two more times after that. It was the 2010 one that made the biggest change in me. I decided that, well, you know what, I do want to go into teacher training. I'll try to keep this brief. There are, of course, some issues with cultural appropriation inside Kundalini Yoga. The groups that do it, of course, will justify it out, and that's fine. They want to live with that. That's okay. They try to shut down conversations, but that's something else. That's another topic. But I had many questions about that, and I'd met a teacher. He was from Chandigarh, India. He was Punjabi Sikh, just like me, who had been doing Kundalini Yoga, and he happened to be Yogi Bhajan's personal doctor, Dr. Ajit. He actually gave me a lot of explanations, and I don't want to go through them, but when I heard them, it made a lot of sense to me. And from my observations till today, I think what he was saying is very true. And it got me decided, well, basically I did 3 weeks of teacher training with him, but it was unofficial. In other words, after the festival, he ended up staying at my house, and while living with him, we were waking up before the sun. I was living my regular day. I was going to the office, doing all my regular work, coming back in the evening to continue classes with him. And some of these would go late into the night because I would have a lot of questions and he would give me a lot of answers. And sometimes he would go late on until the night, but the next morning before the sun, we were up again. So it was not strenuous. That's the weird thing, because I guess I was being open to a whole new world, especially coming from another perspective of this entire teachings and this entire thing. That whenever I'm asked, where did you learn? That's what my answer is. 2 years later, I would do Kundalini Yoga teacher training with Kundalini Yoga Thailand, which was part of a group called Kundalini Yoga Asia, and I got my certificate with them, and it was really good as well. I'm not saying that their teacher training is bad by any means. I learned a lot from there as well. But I think compared with the depth and the coverage of having a one-on-one training with Dr. Ajit, I still think my teacher training came the non-certified way.
Yeah.
The other way was more like I got a piece of paper. Not discounting it, but I paid a lot for a piece of paper, which I got literally for free from Dr. Ajit. So yeah.
Okay, so that
was how I started getting teaching. I would teach. I would then get involved a couple of years later. I would run a single class a week from my own home. I've never been a full-time yoga teacher. At least till today, I've never been a full-time yoga teacher. I would do a weekly class at home. In 2012, I met somebody who runs the Bangkok Farmers Market in Bangkok, in Thailand.
Is that the one at Egamai?
Yes, the one at Egamai. I'm not involved with them anymore. We had a very good time together. We both grew, but I just couldn't give them any more of my time. I think it was... I used to give them some of my time, and then I formed a branch out from that called the Bangkok Farmers Market Community Yoga. And I started setting up the thing, found yogis, started teaching within that system, and we ran that very well for a couple of years. I still run the page on Facebook and a group. I don't post anything from it, but the man who runs the farmers market was very kind enough to let me keep running it afterwards. We parted amicably after I finished with the Bangkok Farmers Market. But I was doing that from 2012 till 2015 or 16, on and off. I think I stopped teaching cold for about a year to a year and a half. I was just going through some personal issues in life and felt I couldn't teach. I would, in mid-2017, started coming back into teaching, and by late 2017, kind of redid my house a little bit so that we could have classes in there, be in the home, but not be part of the home. And so it was in early 2018, the School of Kundalini Yoga was found, the Sky Yoga, or the School of Kundalini Yoga. And Dr. Ajit did help come and set it up. And I had a couple more like heavy, intensive learnings from really great, amazing teachers of Kundalini Yoga at various parts of that time frame period. But each of them is a beautiful story. I'd been to learn with Gurmukh Kaur in Rishikesh, with Sukhmander Singh, and also with George Craig McMillan, otherwise known as Kirantana. Some amazing people, amazing insights, and it all helped me develop my own being as a teacher, as, of course, my daily practice, and this desire to want more people to have the tools of Kundalini Yoga, to apply it in any which way you'd want to. I don't really believe that, like I said, it's tradition and lineage. Very early on, I spoke to that. When you have respect to tradition and lineage, you can take this and go plant it any way you like. You got the seeds, you plant it how it works for you. And so, I mean, the plan of the School of Kundalini Yoga is to start certifying teachers. We're not there yet. We're still maybe a year or 2 years away from that, I think. But we're getting there. It's an exciting time. Even though the world is closed down and we can't do in-person classes, not in Bangkok right now. I've been doing my classes online. There's still a belief that, the more people can practice Kundalini, the more sovereign beings and people who want to take leadership of their own lives in the world, which only makes things better. Aware people, are always going to be mindful. Mindful people are going to be, more level-headed, more caring, more courteous, more giving. And you're going to get a better world when you have individuals like that, I believe. Even more so through a system of people being mindful and aware, even more so than a revolution that plays out on the streets.
Yeah. I think we each have an opportunity to take control or to better reflect on our own personal life, and if we are able to meet our own potential within that, like if enough people are doing that, like it ripples out through your immediate family, even to the person you serves you in Starbucks. The way that you just carry yourself and how you are in the world will affect others, and that is something that we don't need to wait for the government or wait for whatever, some higher, like someone in a position that we have no immediate control.
Exactly.
We can begin today.
I think today, in the year 2021, we've been through enough street movements to know that eventually it will get corrupt and fall on itself, and a form of an older system will always come about. That's the system of having another leader. You join a movement to put somebody else up. Okay, a new group will come. A new security system will come. It's not going to be that different from the old one. The same corrupt players will still hold on to resources to corrupt people. And people with power are always open to being corrupt. I'm not saying that they are going to be corrupt, but the opportunity for that is very high. Imagine it myself. Suddenly being in a position where I have a lot of power and somebody offers me $1 billion to do a favor for them. I will tell you very honestly, it will be a very difficult decision, because $1 billion can do a lot of things. I can play mental gymnastics and tell myself that I can use that $1 billion for the betterment of the world. I think a lot of people do that. But I don't honestly know. I mean, if you started with a corrupt action, can it actually help anybody? I don't know. I think the whole thing gets compromised.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm interested in revolution, and I'm interested in politics, and I've studied, the revolution in talking to my girlfriend about the French Revolution or the Russian Revolution, and even what happened in South Africa, and it starts with good intention. And then, just as George Orwell wrote about in Animal Farm, things begin to slowly go back to the way it was, and it's quite depressing, to be honest. And I think I do think, of course, power, politics, etc., things can be better or worse, but I think our energy is better focused on how we can focus on our own lives, because
I think that's why we
can always be better or worse. 100%. Like, as easy as you need to say, like Boris Johnson is bad, he's rubbish, he's not good, which I believe those things, but it's like, well, so am I. And if I actually bring my awareness to that and where I can be better, or at least even just have awareness around it to not do those things, that's going to have more leverage on making the world and my life better than this politician or that politician.
Correct. And it starts from taking charge and being the leader of your own life. I think that's really the top step.
Very much so, yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
And so at the Sky Yoga, is it you're doing Kundalini Yoga? Are there any other things that I mean, obviously right now it's closed.
Right now it's closed. There were other teachers there. We had many different teachers, and each of them, what I like to do with teachers when they come into the space of Sky Yoga is, well, first off, all yoga is to raise Kundalini. What is Kundalini then? Kundalini is just an energy that stays, usually, many people like to say it stays dormant in the center of your spine or at the bottom of your spine. It is like a twirled snake, It's basically, I like to explain it this way, and I don't know if it's correct or wrong, but it's like a fire energy that stays with you. And the location is very much the first and second chakras, so it's there. Now, many of us have Kundalini energy already. It is what is making you go out into the world. You feel angry, you feel sad. This is an emotional energy. Now, when you awaken it, you're taking basically a consciousness level of it of this energy, and you are bringing your breath to a conscious breath. A conscious breath to use the fire of life to reach where you want to go, to your next step. That is basically what Kundalini is. And all forms of yoga will open it up, because the practice is such that it opens up your body to let it flow up and down your chakric systems easily and openly. So it's not special that Kundalini yoga is, faster or this or that. No, that depends on individual to individual. The way Kundalini yoga was taught by Yogi Bhajan makes it faster, but it doesn't come without its own dangers. Yeah. So, if you're looking to do Kundalini yoga, first have trust in the person you're going to learn from. Go seek them outside of class and see how their personality is. Don't just see them in the front. It's easy. Believe me, the optics, the preparation for class, it's not that difficult to look saintly or whatever. But see them outside. See how they really behave. Get them at an off moment and see how it is. Don't just go after anybody. Try to tick off your teacher actually and see how they actually reply to that. Why not?
Yeah. So you want to learn someone that has integrity.
Yes. You want somebody who has integrity. I think that's important. When you so for the other teachers, I like to say one thing. This space you have, experiment. I really like yoga teachers experimenting from whichever tradition to change, to find something new. We had a teacher who started incorporating dance into her classes. Dance. Not ecstatic dance, just movements.
Yeah.
In posture, to dance in the posture. Wow. You can do tree move and kind of twirl. You can do downward dog and be moving. And it was fun. We had a teacher who decided that I want to go more strenuous in a gentle form of yoga, like yin yoga, and make it strenuous and difficult sometimes and then come back to the yin. Yes, you might have yin yang, I don't know. But it was really good to see people experiment. We had a lot of good teachers. I'm not mentioning their names right now because I don't know who will come back or who will not after. Yeah. And I'm not even sure if I'm going to be in Bangkok for a very long time. Okay. To be honest, there's a chance I might be moving to Koh Phangan. Very high chance of that happening. I would like to take the School of Kundalini Yoga there.
Right.
And a personal thing of mine is to get in touch with more people. I think 12 years experience as a teacher, 13 years experience in Kundalini Yoga. I think I have a lot to give. I have a lot to offer and give for a generation of people who are interested in becoming yoga teachers. Not necessarily Kundalini, just any field. Okay,
I think we're coming to the end there, and I see the batteries running.
Oh, perfect timing.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Raj.
Thank you for having me.
If people want to connect, where's the best way for them to find out?
With me?
Yeah.
You know what? Go find my Instagram. Instagram.com /hipster yogi in one word. There's no dots, no nothing else.
Yeah.
It's a funny name. It's a funny story. Because I'm not really hipsterish, so it's ironic.
The original hipster yogi.
Yeah. It's ironic. So it makes it a hipster in itself. I don't know. Figure it out.
Cool.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate being here. I really like the work you do. I'm a fan. And I like being interviewed by you. Thank you very, very much, David.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, hit the bell button to be updated on all the latest videos. You can check me out on Instagram at David Bailey Life Coach.